beautiful Saturday night here in Appalachia. I had to find the strength to do this video because I was spent my afternoon, a few hours, digging a 50-foot trench. When you live in a rainforest, you have to deal with directing the water, trying to direct it away from the house. So that's what I was doing today, so I'm physically spent, but it does give you a lot of time to think, to ponder life, physical labor. One of the things I've been pondering all week is the subject of last week, which is the rite of passage from boyhood to manhood. And I've been pondering that in a society where this rite of passage, as it used to be practiced in the tribal communities, especially for young boys, in a society where this is no longer practiced, what can we do? What can we do as men to move from boyhood to manhood, to live in man psychology as opposed to boy psychology? And there's an interesting question to give much thought to. I don't know if I have good answers, but I did want to share some thoughts that I had on it. Since there's no way we can go back and reproduce that tribal community rite of passage from boyhood to manhood, where the boy is taken from the mother somewhere between the ages of 8 and 13, goes to live with the men, learns what it means to be a man. Could be hunting, combined with regulating his emotions and his sexual energy. Something we certainly, at least growing up in the 70s, was not something that was talked about. So, since we can't do that, we can't go back to when I was 10 years old and do that, what can we do? Well, there's a lot of books that were written back mostly in the 90s. There seemed to be a big movement, starting even in the late 80s. Books like Iron John, and then David Deida came on scene with The Way of the Superior Man, many others. 4.5 years ago, on my last trip to Costa Rica, December 2019, I took with me this book, and it is called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. This was also written in the 1990s. It's a very popular book in men's circles. A lot of guys have done good work around that book. I suggest you seek them out. I read the book during that time in around the end of 2019, early 2020. Unfortunately, there's a video I did a long time ago about embodying these things, and I did not embody the teachings 4.5 years ago the way I wish I had. So we're still a work in progress. That was the moment where I transitioned from the decade of seeking to the decade of healing, as I talked about before. But I wanted to give a glimpse into some thought about what this book means and how we can look at it. In another video, I talked about understanding archetypes and what archetype is talking. When the victim is talking or the addict is talking. But I wanted to share just some thoughts they had in this book about living these 4 archetypes. What does it mean? At the end of each one, at the end of each of the 4 archetypes, he has a little, it's 2 guys who wrote this. They have a little section about accessing. For example, this one is accessing the king. What does that mean? But when we are accessing the king energy correctly as servants of our own inner king, we will manifest in our own lives the qualities of the good and rightful king, the king in his fullness. We will feel our anxiety level drop. We will feel centered and calm and hear ourselves speak from an inner authority. We will have the capacity to mirror and to bless ourselves and others. We will have the capacity to care for others deeply and genuinely. We will recognize others. This is a painful lesson I learned about being in a romantic relationship, is to, the way they phrase it here is recognize the other, to value the other, to listen, and to be with the other. We will behold them as the full persons they really are. Yeah. Namaste. The light in me honors the light in you. We will have a sense of being a centered participant in creating a more just, calm, and creative world. We will have a transpersonal devotion not only to our families, our friends, our companies, our causes, our religions, but also to the world. We will have some kind of spirituality, and we will know the truth of the central commandment around which all of human life seems to be based. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God, read that as the king, with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy might, and thy neighbor as thyself. So you can see how they're blending many things in here, including spirituality, and probably one of the main commandments of the 10 commandments is love thy neighbor as thyself. Something that we just do not focus on at all. But to understand that when we are in our king, we are calm and centered and grounded. And this is where we can practice that idea of emotional regulation, especially in a romantic relationship. Okay, we can mirror and bless ourselves and bless others. And so we can come up with practices on a daily basis to do these things. We can bless. I do this every morning. I bless the sacred ground that I live on. I bless my beautiful little home. You know, I openly say, thank you, God, for this wonderful abundance that you've bestowed on me. And that's the king energy in all his glory on his little piece of land here, all right, caring for his land and this too, caring for this human body, right, which we spend a lot of time large part of our life taking for granted. Caring for this every day, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, being centered and grounded. Right? That's the king energy. That's accessing the king energy. And one of the ways to do that is to just stop, sit, and close your eyes, and just relax. And just practice letting things go. Practice transmuting those emotions that I talked about before. Breathe in the fear, breathe out the love. Breathe in the fear, breathe out the love. Right? And just be. And understand that you are the authority of your life, no one else. Don't listen to other authority figures. We got a lot of that going on in our world right now. So let's move on to the warrior. Accessing the warrior. If we are accessing the warrior appropriately, we will be energetic, decisive, courageous, enduring, persevering, and loyal to some greater good beyond our own personal gain. Okay? The warrior is one with the mystery of all that we enjoy, because it is all a mystery. The warrior has a bigger purpose. The warrior and the king combined, they have a bigger purpose. They want to make a difference in this world. That's why I'm making these little videos. Even if only 2 people watch them or 3 people watch them, that's okay. All right? We do what we can do in this world. But that's the warrior. The warrior is decisive, right? Courageous. So how do we get to courage? Right? When we're in fear, we go to anger. Right? We move up that map of consciousness from fear to anger, push through the pride, get to courage. And from courage, we can do everything and anything. All right? At the same time, we need to be leavening, I love the words they use, leavening the warrior with the energies of the other mature masculine forms, the king, the magician, and the lover. If we are accessing the warrior in the right way, we will, at the same time that we are detached, be warm, compassionate, appreciative, and generative. We will care for others and ourselves. We will fight good fights in order to make the world a better, more fulfilling place for everyone and everything. Our war making will be for the creation of the new, the just, and the free. All right. So let's talk about what we're seeing in our world right now. Is we're seeing a lot of people wanting to tear things down. Okay. Whether they're going into stores and stealing everything, or whether they're going in and burning everything, it doesn't matter. That is not the warrior energy. The warrior wants to create the new. Right? The warrior is not just about destroying the old. The old will go by itself. Right? But we want to create the new, and we want to create it from a place of calmness and centeredness, that detached place. All right? But also from a place of compassion and appreciation. So the warrior picks and chooses his battles. So let's move on to the magician. Accessing the magician. I can almost read without these still. Makes it a little easier though. Accessing the magician. If we are accessing the magician appropriately, we will be adding to our professional and personal lives a dimension of clear-sightedness, of deep understanding and reflection about others and ourselves, and technical skill in our outer work and in our inner handling of psychological forces. All right, our inner handling of psychological forces. Okay, a technical skill. Well, what is that? Breathe in the fear, breathe out the love. Breathe in the fear, breathe out the love. All right. The magician is helping you to transmute. What does a magician do? All right, in true magic, not the kind where they just pull a rabbit out of the hat. Right, in true magic, the alchemical magic, they're transmuting. So we want to transmute the lower energies, the lower emotions, the shame, the guilt, the despair, right? The fear, the anger. And we want to transmute those into the higher vibrating energies. Courage and bliss and love and peace and joy, happiness. Right? There's actually one interesting part in here that I found earlier about accessing the magician. Yeah, they actually have a technique in here they used in their psychology practice about called focusing. I won't go into that one today, but it says that we need to mix with the magician the king's concern for generosity, the warrior's ability to act decisively and with courage, and the lover's deep and convinced connectiveness to all things. Yeah. They talk about every one of these accessing has a sentence about bringing all 4 of the energies together, all 4 of the archetypes together. But there was one line in here about how the magician manifests in our world magician energy is present in the warrior archetype in the form of his clarity of thinking. The magician alone does not have the capacity to act. That is the warrior's specialty. But he does have the capacity to think. That's how they work together. They had a line in here about the magician manifested in many cultures as the shaman. In fact, here it is. That primordial magician in men has manifested itself most fully in what anthropologists refer to as the shaman. The shaman in traditional societies was the healer, the one who restored life, who found lost souls, and who discovered the hidden causes of misfortune. He was the one who restored wholeness and fullness of being to both individuals and communities. Indeed, the magician energy today still has the same ultimate aim. The magician and the shaman, as his fullest human vessel, aims at fullness of being for all things through the compassionate application of knowledge and technology. So that I thought was really well spoken. The other name that I've come across, so the shaman, the healer, and the sage. You know, sage sometimes leads us to guru, but the sage, the wise one. So let's move on to the lover, the last one. Accessing the lover of life. It is the lover properly accessed that gives us a sense of meaning, what we have been calling spirituality. It is the lover who is the source of our longings for a better world for ourselves and others. It is who is the idealist and the dreamer. He is the one who wants us to have an abundance of good things. I have come to bring you life, that you might have it more abundantly, says the lover. The lover keeps the other masculine energies humane, loving, and related to each other and to the real-life situation of human beings struggling in a difficult world. The king, the warrior, and the magician, as we've suggested, harmonize pretty well with each other. They do so because without the lover, they are essentially detached from life. They need the lover to energize them, to humanize them, and to give them their ultimate purpose, love. They need the lover to keep them from being sadistic. And the lover needs them as well. The lover without boundaries, which I know a lot about when I was younger. The lover without boundaries in his chaos of feeling and sensuality needs the king to define limits for him, to give him structure, to order his chaos so that it can be channeled creatively. Without limits, the lover energy turns negative and destructive. That's very true. The lover needs the warrior in order to be able to act decisively, in order to detach with the clean cut of the sword from the web of immobilizing sensuality. The lover needs the warrior to destroy the golden temple which keeps him fixated, and the lover needs the magician to help him back off from the ensnaring effect of his emotions in order to reflect, to get a more objective perspective on things, to disconnect enough to at least to see the big picture and to experience the reality beneath the seeming. It's fascinating, because if we go into the lover and only the lover, we will end up with the addict generally, and it will be all about the senses. We won't have the structure of the king and the decisiveness of the warrior and the wisdom of the magician. That's why they all have to work together. So there's it's an excellent book. I've been browsing it a lot lately. He's got the conclusion is called Accessing the Archetypal Powers of the Mature Masculine, and it's a whole section on here. He's got one technique. It's called the Active Imagination Dialogue. So I just wanted to relate that as an idea for anyone who's listening. And Just wondering what some ways that we can move deeper into our masculine energy. It's for the men out there. Balancing that with the feminine. But I highly recommend the book King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. So I hope this was helpful for some of the men. There's a lot more to it, but gives you some idea of how these archetypes can work together and how they have to work together if we are to be whole. Because as Carl Jung and many before him tried to tell us, we are the archetypal man. We have all these aspects in our personality, whether it's when you look at the tarot, when you look at the zodiac, they're all saying the same thing. This is the archetypal man. We have those 12 aspects of the zodiac. I am not just a Capricorn. Okay, we have those 12 aspects of the zodiac in all of us. We have masculine and feminine in us. We have the King, Warrior, Magician, Lover in us. Okay, and we need to harmonize all of that. And it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of what I talked about in one video about conscious living. Understanding, where is this thought coming from? Who's speaking? The king or the tyrant? The lover or the addict? The warrior or the weakling? Right? The warrior or the masochist? You know, who's talking? So, hope this was helpful. I gotta go and get cleaned up and collapse. I'm physically rather exhausted. But it is a beautiful night out here. It was supposed to rain today, but it didn't. Not yet anyway. And see you again hopefully next Saturday. So until then, aho.